Okay, this is People of the State of Michigan versus Kevin Morrissey, docket number 20-672FH. And this is the time set for a plea. Mr. Morrissey, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Morrissey, you have the right to be represented by an attorney. You are represented by Ms. Samuel. And Ms. Samuel or Ms. Allen, either one, can you tell me which count or counts is this a plea to?
Your Honor, this is a plea to count 1.
Okay, and then Ms. Samuel, will you waive reading of the balance of the information?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Allen, would you read count 1, please?
In the People of the State of Michigan versus Kevin Morrissey, file 20-672-FH, State of Michigan, County of Ingham. In the name of the people of the State of Michigan, the prosecuting attorney for this county appears before the court and informs the court that on or about March 1st, 2019, at 5942 Haverhill Drive, City of Lansing, Ingham County, the defendant did in count 1 commit the offense of aggravated possession of child sexually abusive material. That he did knowingly possess child sexually abusive material involving a video, contrary to Michigan law. This involves a Sex Offender Registry Act notice that this is a Tier 1 offense under the Sex Offender Registration Act. It is a Tier 2 offense if the defendant has a prior conviction for a Tier 1 offense pursuant to Michigan law. It is a Tier 3 offense if the defendant has a prior conviction for a Tier 2 offense pursuant to Michigan law. This is a felony punishable by up to 10 years and/or $50,000 and was committed against the peace and dignity of the state of Michigan.
Mr. Morrissey, you're being charged here with what's known as an aggravated possession of child sexually abusive material. That is a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Have you had enough time to talk about this charge with your attorney?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge against you?
Yes, I do.
Do you have any questions about what we're doing?
No.
And before I ask my next question, let me back up. It would also, in addition to up to 10 years in prison, it would require you to register under the Michigan Sex Offender Registration Act. And if you were on parole at the time you committed the offense, it would require a consecutive sentence. And now you said you still have no questions, is that right?
That's correct.
And how do you want to plead?
Guilty.
If your plea of guilty is accepted by this court, it means you won't have a trial of any kind and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with the trial. I was given a written advice of rights form with what looks like maybe your signature on it. Did you sign that?
It looks like yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, and so then you went over the rights on this form with your lawyer?
Yes, I did.
And you understand the form, the purpose of the form is that it lists the rights that go along with the trial, and those are the rights you give up when you plead guilty, right?
Yes.
And that's what you want to do?
Yes.
Also, if I accept your plea, it means you cannot come back later on and try to say that the plea was the result of some promise or threat that no one told me about today. Do you understand that?
I do understand. Yes.
It also means you cannot come back later on and try to say that it really wasn't your own choice to plead guilty today. Do you understand that?
I understand that. Yes.
Is there a plea agreement, Ms. Allen?
There is, Your Honor. In exchange for the defendant's successful plea and sentence to count 1, the people agreed to dismiss the balance of the felony information. The parties also agree, pursuant to People versus Killebrew, that the defendant's minimum sentence will be on the B grid in an A2 cell, which is a 12 to 20 range. The parties acknowledge that's a straddle cell, and it's also below the guidelines on this offense. The defendant also agrees to forfeit all seized electronics in this case that law enforcement took on the date in question.
Okay, I'm just getting all that down. Hold on. Okay, and Ms. Samuel, is that a full and complete statement?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Mr. Morrissey, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, it is.
Do you agree with it?
I do.
There is an agreement about your sentence, and that is that it would be considered a sentence on the B grid of the sentencing guidelines in the range of 12 to 20 months. It's a agreed upon straddle cell, which means that it could be either a jail or a prison sentence. Do you understand all that?
Yes.
Okay, now about that agreement on your sentence, if for some reason I decided not to go along with that, in other words, if I wanted to give you a higher sentence, I would tell you before I sentenced you, and I'd give you a chance, if you wanted to take back this plea and start over. You got all that?
Yes.
Okay? Has anyone promised you anything else that has not been said here right now in order to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Anyone used any threats to get you to do it?
No.
Is this your own choice?
Yes.
And are you pleading guilty because you believe you are in fact guilty of this offense?
I am in fact guilty. Yes.
Okay, then we're talking about on or about March 1 of 2019. Tell me what you did.
On March of 2019, my house was raided by 13 agents, 8 agents, Michigan State Police agents. They raided my house at 7:30 a.m. At that time, they broke into my house, no knock warrant, and breached my door. And I woke up, of course, and when I looked down the stairs, there was 2 agents that were behind riot shields with guns pointed. I was able to make it downstairs, and they put me in cuffs, and I was able to get my pants on, but that was it. So while I was in cuffs, they ran up and down the stairs, cleared out the house to make sure nobody else was in there. There was no one else in there, of course. And after that, they did talk to me a little, and they got me my food so I could, and then I was taken out to a unmarked vehicle, probably a side vehicle, for a interrogation.
Okay, you were cutting out there on your audio a little bit, but let me just ask you. So they seized some electronic equipment, correct?
They did.
And on that electronic equipment, did you have something you shouldn't have had?
What do you mean?
Were you in possession of some material that you were not supposed to have?
I'm sorry. Yes, I had material on there. Yes.
And what was it?
It was, in fact, the some of the illegal pictures and video, child porn.
Child porn. So it was children under the age of 16 in this pornography. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And were they engaged in some, or being forced to, or being cajoled to engage in some sexual activity?
Some were, some were not.
Okay, there were at least some that were. And was it sexual of nature?
Yes.
So were their genitals exposed, or was someone else's genitals exposed and they were acting in some way?
Yes.
Okay. And did you know that you had this on your computer?
I did.
Did you download it or something?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And this was on Haverhill Drive in Lansing, Ingham County?
That's correct.
Has the court complied with MCR 6.302, Ms. Allen? It was a video, correct, Mr. Morrissey?
It was a video and pictures. Yes.
Okay. Has the court complied, Ms. Allen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Samuel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record, Ms. Allen?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Samuel?
No, Your Honor.
The court finds the plea is understandingly and voluntarily made without undue influence, threats, or promises of leniency. It is an accurate plea. It's supported by the testimony. The plea is accepted, and I have a sentencing date of Monday, June 28th at 3:45. That will be an in-person sentencing on Monday, June 28th at 3:45, unless that date doesn't work for you, Ms. Samuel?
That works for me, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Morrissey, you'll need to be in my courtroom on Monday, June 28th at 3:45. And then in the meantime, there has to be a report prepared by the probation department. And so they have to interview you. They're going to do it remotely. But if they have not contacted you to set up an interview in the next day or two, you should call the adult probation department at 483-6100.
Okay.
483-6100, and tell them that you need to schedule that interview. And your bond will be continued. And if you have no questions, Mr. Morrissey, you're all set.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You're free to go, Mr. Morrissey.
Trying. I apologize.
No, it's all right. I just want to make sure you knew that. Okay. And that takes us to, if I have Mr. Teetsort with us, takes us to the next matter. There you go. All right, that takes us to People of the State of Michigan versus Devin Hester, docket number 18-717FH. And Mr. Hester, you're here today on this because a bench warrant was issued. It was issued based on allegations that you're in violation of probation. It's alleged here in count 1 that on or about December 20th of 2020, you engaged in assaultive, threatening, and or intimidating behavior against Andrew Ellison and Monique Ellison. In count 2, on or about the same date, you possessed a handgun. And in count 3, that you have failed to make any payments since your sentencing on February 6, 2019. And Mr. Hester, do you understand the allegations against you?
Yes, I do.
If they're proven true, it could subject you to a maximum penalty of up to 4 years in prison based on your original conviction. You have the right to be represented by an attorney, and you are represented by Mr. Austin, who is present. You also have the right to a contested hearing where you could appear by yourself or through your attorney. You could hear the evidence presented against you. You could cross-examine witnesses, and you could present your own evidence. And Mr. Austin, can you tell me how we're proceeding on this?
Yes, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Hester is willing to admit to the violation in count 3 of failing to make payments towards his fines and costs. I believe counts 1 and 2 are the subject matter of a pending criminal case at the 55th District Court, so I would ask that they be held in abeyance.
Okay, as long as that has been issued, right?
Yes, Your Honor, he was arraigned last week.
Okay, then I will defer any further action because those 2 counts represent a pending charge. But we will proceed on count 3, failing to make any payments since sentencing in February of 2019. And Mr. Hester, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Hester, as I've said, you do have the right to a contested hearing. If you plead guilty, you will not have that hearing, and you'll give up the rights that go along with it. That includes the right to have the allegation proven, the right to have the witnesses against you appear at the hearing and to be able to cross-examine them, the right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the hearing, and also the right to testify yourself at the hearing if you wanted to. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone made any promises to get you to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
Anyone used any threats or other kinds of pressure?
No, ma'am.
Are you pleading guilty because you believe you are in violation of probation?
On the not paying the fines?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what have you done that would make a violation? You haven't paid at all, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I haven't paid any money. I've been back on bills and stuff like that, and my rent, taking care of my kids. And I started working around, I got out February, like around May of that summer, and it was short-lived for a little bit. Then I got back to working, and I have failed to make payments because I was catching up on my bills. We were out of work for a little bit and stuff like that. But I do
Okay.
have some extra money. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, go on.
I was gonna say I had some extra money. I just got approved for um, unemployment, so I was telling my attorney that if I could have a chance on a release because I am on GPS tether for this case I'm in jail for now, and they released me, I could pay immediately, and if I did not within a day or two, then I would agree to be violated again because I have some extra money because I just got some unemployment.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. The court
Okay.
finds the plea is understandingly, voluntarily, and knowingly made. It is supported by the testimony. The plea of guilty is accepted as to count 3, and the defendant is found guilty as to count 3. Is there a recommendation, Agent Teetsort?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hester was originally sentenced in February of 2019 for this case. And most of the time, even during this pandemic, he has held employment. I understand there's bills obviously beyond what's owed to the court, but he owes the original amount of $948. And he also is on a concurrent probation with Clinton County. And early in the term, there was some struggles and violations, and he returned to court, but he was continued on the probation at that time. And then from the best of our knowledge, he'd made improvements, again, working, reporting, negative drug tests, completing the required programming. So the payments was the outstanding issue, and he was extended out till August of this year. I don't know if we need an extension at this point. I don't know how fast the other stuff will go through the court. He does have a hold right now from Clinton County, and I'm not sure what will happen there. He has known about the money, and he said different times with unemployment or maybe even federal stimulus that he would try to get it paid. And but for this pending charge, if that would have happened, or even if we got to the discharge date and we didn't think it was entirely willful, I probably would have asked for a discharge at that time. But if he's continued on this term, I was considering requesting that he go on a monitor, but it appears like if he can be released on all 3, the new pending, this probation case in Clinton County, he's going to be on a GPS tether anyway. So I guess I'm asking for his credit for 5 days and see what happens. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Austin?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. It sounds like overall, Mr. Hester has done fairly well on probation. Had a mishap there at the beginning, but it sounds like he got back on track. The remaining issue has been the paying towards his fines and costs. Sounds like he has been employed for the most part, just had some other financial issues kind of getting in the way. He assures me that he will be, just as he assured the court a moment ago, that he will be able to start making payments on that immediately upon his release. I believe this is the only matter keeping him in our facility, as he does have a personal recognizance bond on his new charge. He will be out there working. He does have children to support. If the court is to continue him on probation, I would ask that he not receive any further incarceration at this point and to continue him. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hester, was there anything you wanted to say? Anything else?
No, ma'am, not at the moment.
Okay. Well, with the other charges pending and the GPS tether order in those cases, I agree with the recommendation and I will continue you on probation. The bench warrant is dismissed. You're sentenced to 5 days in jail with credit for 5 days. served, and it looks like your probation term, Mr. Hester, comes up in August, early August of this year. So I suspect that Agent Teetsort will submit for an extension of that. And I know that if the only thing left to be done is pay money, that may not work, but I maintain that with charges pending that I have deferred on, that is a valid reason for extension of probation. So if you want to submit that either now or when the time comes, I don't care either way, Miss Agent Teetsort, then I'll extend the probation.
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess we'd just track it. I mean, it's probably unlikely that it would be resolved, but on the off chance that it is and that he can make some payments. So I'll track it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And Mr. Hester, you have the right to file an application for leave to appeal your conviction and your sentence in this matter. You're entitled to an attorney at public expense to assist you in doing that. If you're making a request for one, you have to make it within 42 days of today's date. There's a form called Appellate Rights that we will send to you that tells more about that. Okay, you are